Let me tell you something. Nothing says good morning, sunshine, quite like coming home from a business trip and discovering that someone has literally ripped the roof off your house while you're gone. Yeah, you heard me right. My name's Mike, and I'm a structural engineer, which, believe me, is both a blessing and a curse when your neighborhood HOA decides to wage war on your property. I thought I'd seen every flavor of petty, power-hungry nonsense after 5 years living here, but wow, was I ever wrong. So, a little background. 3 years ago, I splurged on this gorgeous slate roof for my house. We're not talking cheap asphalt shingles from the hardware store. No, this was the kind of roof that'd make a realtor swoon and your neighbors jealous in that way people pretend not to be. I did everything by the book. Found the best contractor, double-checked the warranty, and even got the blessing of our HOA's architectural committee, the group that acts like they're the guardians of neighborhood taste. Now, our HOA president. Let's call her Karen, for lack of a better cliche. She's the sort who could find a violation in a field of wildflowers. Measures grass with a ruler, sends out angry little notices if your mailbox is 2 shades too blue. Most of us just try to lay low and hope she's busy harassing someone else. About a year ago, word spread that the board was cooking up some aesthetic uniformity initiative. I was immediately on high alert. Sent them an email with receipts. My roof's new. It's under warranty. You already gave it a thumbs up, so leave me out of your next beauty pageant. Karen replied with her classic syrupy tone. We're just exploring options. No worries. Yeah, sure. I screenshotted that email like it was the Holy Grail. Fast forward to last month. I get a short notice gig consulting out of state. 2 days, in and out, nothing major. Wednesday night, my neighbor texts me, "Hey Mike, you got work being done at your house?" I'm like, "No, why?" He sent me a photo, dumpster in my driveway, a bunch of guys tearing stuff apart. Mike, it sinks. I try calling the dumpster company, but it's late and nobody's answering. Thursday morning, another text, this time with a photo that'll haunt me. My roof is gone. Not under repair. Not in progress. Gone. Half of it stripped down to bare wood, slate tiles in the dumpster, tools everywhere. I scrambled to change my flight, probably broke a record getting home. What I walked into looked like the aftermath of a tornado, except a tornado doesn't leave paperwork. About 70% of my beautiful, expensive, HOA-approved slate roof was history. A crew of workers was gearing up to finish the job. I walked straight up to the foreman, trying to keep my cool. "What are you doing to my house?" I asked very calmly, which I think made it even scarier. The guy pulls out a work order signed, not by me, but by the HOA board. Said my house was abandoned, and the roof was a hazard that needed emergency replacement. I whipped out my phone and started filming. This is my house, and if you touch another shingle, that's trespassing. I showed him my ID with the address. He gets on the phone with his boss, starts to look pretty nervous. Meanwhile, I'm snapping photos of everything. The mess, the dumpster, the paperwork, even the work trucks. Here's the kicker. The big work truck has a license plate registered to some LLC I'd never heard of, but one of the smaller trucks has a cheap magnetic sign, and underneath you can still see another company's name. Nothing like sloppy criminals. The foreman finally says his boss wants to talk to the HOA president. I tell him, fine, but if anyone moves another tile, I'm calling the cops. The crew grabs their stuff and bails, leaving my house wide open to the elements with only a couple of sad tarps flapping in the breeze. So I call Karen. She picks up all fake sweetness. "Oh, Mike, how was your trip?" I tell her exactly what I found. Her whole demeanor flips. She says the board passed a uniformity amendment while I was out. My roof, apparently, no longer matched community standards. And they'd done me a favor by getting started on the work while I was away, so I wouldn't have to deal with construction noise. Generous, right? I point out, calmly but firmly, that she has absolutely no legal authority to do this. Karen doubles down, saying I signed HOA agreements giving them all this power. And by the way, the new roof will cost $22,000, added to my dues as a special assessment. When I asked if she'd lost her mind, she told me to watch my tone and take it up at the next board meeting. Thursday afternoon, I called my insurance company, and the adjuster was floored, said she'd never heard of an HOA ripping off a roof without consent. She scheduled an emergency inspection and told me to weatherproof my house ASAP. Then I called my lawyer, a guy I'd worked with before. When I finished telling the story, he just went silent for a minute, then started firing off questions about bylaws and proof of notice. He said to keep every scrap of evidence and told me he'd look over the HOA docs that night. After that, I called a few contractors I trusted from work. Most were busy, but one came by that night and did a proper job of tarping and securing the roof. Refused to take a dime for it, just wanted to help. Good people exist, you know? Of course, that night it rained. Not a monsoon, just your regular autumn thunderstorm. But it was enough. The tarps the first crew left might as well have been paper towels. Water poured into 3 rooms, shorted out some electronics, and started leaking through my ceiling. I took a ton of photos. Next morning, I dig into this budget best roofing company. Turns out it's a brand new LLC, registered only months ago. The owner? Karen's brother-in-law. Public records confirmed it. These folks have been raking in HOA contracts for emergency repairs all year. No competitive bids, no community votes, just signatures from Karen. In all, over $80,000 of HOA money funneled to this shady operation, with nothing but sketchy invoices and board approval. Then it hit me. This wasn't just a power trip. This was a racket, a full-on scheme. Karen and her family were running a personal slush fund with everyone's dues. The deeper I dug, the more skeletons tumbled out. Budget Best had multiple state citations for doing work without permits, a horrible BBB rating, complaints about shoddy work, and surprise bills, you name it. I could have gone full scorched earth right then, filed lawsuits, called every authority I could think of, but that's not my style. I'm an engineer. I like my ducks in a row. So I documented everything. Forensic inspections proving my original roof was in perfect shape, photos, receipts, the shady contracts, all of it. Sent formal cease and desist letters to the HOA and Budget Best, demanding they stop work and pay for proper weatherproofing. That same week, the HOA sent me a bill, $22,000 plus a late fee, backdated to before they started destroying my house. Classy move. But by then, I was way ahead of them. Turns out, state law says any capital improvement over $15,000 needs a vote of 75% of homeowners. No such vote ever happened. And if board members approve spending that benefits their families without full disclosure, they can be held personally liable. Jackpot. Here comes the twist. I invited every homeowner over for a roofing info session. Framed it as educational, not confrontational. 40 folks showed up in my backyard. I walked them through the whole mess. My background, the timeline, the forensic reports, proof Budget Best was Karen's family, financials showing tens of thousands in questionable payments. People were shocked and angry. Stories came out. Others have been pressured into repairs, charged ridiculous rates, or had similar weird run-ins with Budget Best. By the end of the meeting, I had signatures from over 40 homeowners demanding an emergency board meeting. Our little volunteer research group dug even deeper over the next few days. Turns out the HOA had paid Budget Best for tree work already covered in our landscaping contract. For sprinkler repairs, another company said weren't needed. Even for sidewalk fixes the city had done for free. The total in questionable payments? Nearly $150,000. 2 years' worth of everyone's dues. Monday morning, I filed a lawsuit, not just against the HOA, but against the individual board members for breach of fiduciary duty. I also filed complaints with the state licensing board and attorney general and handed over my mountain of evidence. The emergency board meeting was pandemonium. Karen tried to control the story, sending out a smear letter claiming I was a disgruntled homeowner trying to skip repairs. Backfired spectacularly. Neighbors who'd watched my house while I was gone called her out for lying. The meeting room overflowed. Standing room only, folks angry and armed with printouts. As soon as Karen tried to start with routine business, someone called for a motion to address the roof issue first, seconded by a dozen voices. Then my neighbor, a retired lawyer, stood up and dropped the hammer. This was a criminal matter, not a complaint, and the board had a fiduciary responsibility to act. Someone else moved to suspend normal procedures for open discussion, and the room erupted in agreement. I presented my evidence. Over $170,000 in sweetheart deals for budget best and board members' families. State citations, BBB complaints, overpayments galore. My settlement offer was simple. Restore my roof with a contractor of my choice, fix the water damage, pay my legal fees, and Karen resigns, plus authorize a full independent audit of HOA finances. If not, I'd see them in court, file criminal charges, and alert the state attorney general. Karen tried to argue, said everything was above board, $22,000 was a fair price, and homeowners couldn't challenge the board. That set the room off. Homeowners started reading bylaws aloud, pointing out competitive bid requirements and personal liability for shady spending. And here's the moment I'd been waiting for. I looked Karen dead in the eye and said, "You have the right to trim the bushes, but you don't have the right to dismantle my house." The place erupted. Someone called for a vote of no confidence. Others shouted for her removal. The board caved. Karen resigned on the spot. The HOA voted to pay for my repairs and legal costs and agreed to a full forensic audit. I got a $35,000 designer roof installed by the contractor of my choice. Their insurance had to cough up for most of it, but a lot came straight out of the reserve fund. State licensing suspended budget best business, and rumor has it Karen and her family moved across the country. Now, the new board does things by the book. Every major decision gets community input, and there's zero tolerance for funny business. I sit out on my porch sometimes, look up at my beautiful roof, and think karma is a wild thing. And the real payoff? The neighborhood is tighter, smarter, and nobody's afraid to question the board anymore. Best part? Just last week, a process server showed up to serve Karen's brother-in-law across the street with a cease and desist from the state attorney general. I may have waved, couldn't help myself. You know, this whole mess taught me that justice isn't about revenge. It's about making things right for everybody and making sure the bullies can't do it again. Karen thought legalese and scare tactics would keep us quiet. She forgot some of us actually read the fine print. So here's my lesson, one I learned the hard way. Never underestimate the power of being prepared and the importance of standing together. It's not about fighting louder. It's about fighting smarter and documenting every step. In the end, community beats corruption. Every single time. But let me ask you, where's the line between a little authority and outright abuse of power? If you saw your HOA crossing that line, would you go to war for your house or just pay up and move on? Drop your thoughts, share your stories about justice or lack of it, or tell me how you handled your own HOA nightmares down in the comments. I want to hear it all.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.